are designed to collect, organize, manage, preserve, and provide broader digital access to the scholarly and creative output of research institutions. The content generated by faculty, staff, and students. The main goal of institutional repository is to maximize the visibility, citation, usage, and the impact of research output by maximizing online access to it for all entire community. Different institutions will want different inputs and outcomes from their IRs, but most are agreed that at least one of the key content layers of an IR should be the referred research output of an institution. So establishing of IRs are mostly initiated by the institutional libraries. And in the past decade, it has become a standard to many academic libraries. In fact, about 5,000 of IRs are listed in open access directories. However, IR operations are anything but standard. Installing the software is the first but not the last step in it. And a lot of decisions about the types and formats of content, internal institution processes, management commitment, copyright issues, etc., etc. So today I'm very glad to introduce our virtual guest, Ricardo Saraiva, who will share with us his personal and organizational experience with institutional repository activity. Ricardo has a postgraduate degree in information science and works in documentation and library services of the University of Minho in Portugal as a manager of Repositories. Repositories, it's a very a nice and interesting name, which is compiled of repository and as University of Minho. So nice name, nice title. And focused on quality and more than 16 years of experience, Ricardo is a specialist in repository management and other academic information systems with hand-on skills in matters of interoperability, guidelines, implementation, metadata schemes, metadata curatorship, and integration of value-added services or functionalities. He is responsible for the management of models in the local research system CRIS, and also proficient in user support, monitoring, and supporting researchers' compliance towards policies and funders' requirements. And also he has excellent knowledge of current issues related with scholarly communication trends like open science and research data management. So Ricardo, please, the seat is yours.
So thank you very much. For me, it's a real pleasure to be here with you today to share a bit of our own experience, University of Minho experience. So I will try to follow up based on a presentation that I will share right now. So just let me share my screen. Just a moment. Can anyone just tell me if you are seeing the presentation?
That's
just
okay.
to check.
Perfectly.
It's okay. So thank you again very much. It's a real pleasure to be here with you to share a bit about our University of Minho experience regarding the repositorium use case. So following this presentation, I will try to follow these four steps, giving a brief introduction about open access at University of Minho, then talking about a bit more in detail about the implementation phases of the repositorium, the definition of an institutional policy, also giving details about the policy that was later on upgraded, giving you also some insight about the policy implementation, the results, giving you also some facts and figures regarding the visibility and the impact of the institutional repository, and also in another area, showing you some ongoing work about, for example, in terms of a CRIS system, the integration with the repository with other information systems, and concluding with some final remarks. So just to give you some context, Portugal, the University of Minho is situated in Portugal, in northwest part of Portugal. It's what we call in Portugal a new university. It's only 46 years old. It's situated in 3 campi, one in Braga and 2 in Guimarães, 2 cities in Minho. In terms of teaching, we have about almost 20,000 students, 59 graduate courses, etc. Just to give you an idea about the scale of our university. In terms of research, we have 31 research centers. Some of them are, the majority of them are considered excellent and very good. We have also an important research center, prestigious. So I won't be in detail too much about this. Probably in the end, you will have the opportunity to see these, some facts and figures about the university if you want, and if you want to check. And later on, you can check with the presentation that will be given to you after this presentation. In terms of the mission, the university is not different from every other academic institution. So what we will be showing today is a bit more in detail about the experience of University of Minho in terms of open access. We have what we can consider nowadays a long, we could say a long history in terms of open access, in terms of pursuing activities related with repositories, projects regarding not only open access, but if we want talk about this more in a open science way. But I will talk a little bit about some of these details about the creation of the repository, some important issues that were the implementation of open access policies and self-archiving policies at university, and trying to showcase a lot of these events through these next 60 minutes or so. So talking about Repositorium, that's the institutional repository of the University of Minho. So it was created in 20th November of 2003. It was presented publicly by the rectory in a public session, and it was this was the phase that the Repositorium had at that time. Okay, so it was a bit different from now, but that's just as a curiosity, what's the interface of Repositorium in 2003. As we already said, the Repositorium objectives are not different from every other institutional repository. We want to contribute to the growth and impact of the research being developed at the institution, increasing its visibility and accessibility, to preserve the intellectual memory and of the institution, but also to facilitate the information management within the institution. The implementation phases that we pursued in Repositorium, we started in May 2003 and comprised 4 phases. The first phase was the installation, the configuration and translation of the system. A second phase that we started was uploading doctoral and master theses, just to give you a brief footnote that, for example, when we started the repository, the repository is open access. It was all very new. So in the first steps that we did, it was to contact the community and start uploading manually at the library some doctoral and master theses to start with some contents at our repository. So in the third phase, after the second phase, we started contacting some communities that we can see communities as departments and research centers. So we reached them and we tried and we created 4 pilot communities to work with us regarding the institutional repository. And in a fourth phase, the repository was publicly presented at 20th November 2003. After carefully checking and analyzing the platforms that were available at that time, we selected the DSpace system because it seemed for us at that time the most adequate system. It was an open source system that was originally developed by MIT and Hewlett-Packard. So we start seeing the characteristics of the system, and at that time, DSpace seemed to us the better solution, and it was open source, as I said. So we started using and developing on DSpace. On this session, probably we won't have the possibility to interact, just not to break this presentation. We have only 60 minutes. It could be great, but I think in the end we will have that opportunity to raise questions. But regarding the platform, just to give you a lot of times people ask us why we chose this platform and not another one. Just because at that time it seemed the best solution, and we started using this solution. And over the years, we created some knowledge in this platform. So over the years, this is the platform that we've been using. But just to say that that's not the only system. There are other repositories platforms. I think, I don't know if in this session, or probably you will have that information. I don't know if Sarit will do this. Simcha, sorry. There are platforms like Zenodo nowadays, for example, that are available that you can use right now to create a repository and start using or experimenting with the repository, because it's already a solution that's given to you. It's already the installation is done, so you can experiment, for example, using this platform or others if you want, but just to give you this footnote. So advancing, in the current scenario that we have at Repositorium, we use DSpace version 6.3.3. The interface is GSPY, Bootstrap based, but we have several customizations and installed several add-ons and configured new functionalities in our system. We created, I think it's a very nice usage statistics module. We have authority controls regarding journals, publishers, authors, and other interesting functionalities that you don't get out of the box with the system. Probably there is an ongoing work with DSpace, because we are talking about DSpace. The next version will be available in the coming months. Some of these probably will be available, but for example, in this scenario, we created also a functionality that will give you a glimpse about it. It's the OpenAIRE funders project list add-on. That's a functionality that allows you to input or to add information about projects of funded publications projects on the metadata, and also the integration with other internal and external relevant information systems. regarding the organization, repositorium like this space is because this space is organized into the concept of communities, is organized in communities. The communities correspond typically to the organic units of the university, departments, research centers, and each community can create several collections. Typically, the collections correspond to documentation typologies. So when we started with Repository, we reached the departments, the research centers, and we talked with them, and they were free to create their presence, their collections to correspond to their contents that they were producing at their own environments. In terms of the ingestion conditions of the content, we have, I would say, another documents or another procedures, but in terms of basic conditions for the contents, for the documents to be included into Repositorium, first of all, because we are an institutional repository, they must be produced by an author or co-author that's member of the University of Minho. They must result from research or from development or teaching activities. It shouldn't be considered ephemeral. So when someone deposits into the repository, that deposit should be assumed as a permanent contribution to the repository.
Ricardo?
We have different levels of access. We assume ourselves as a open access repository, but we of course we understand that there are some contents that can't be ready for public to be free or freely available to the public. So you will find some contents in our repository that are restricted, for example, to the community, to the University of Minho members, but also some of them that are restricted to the authors or to the administration, but that's only a few of them. But every registry in the repository must be followed or must be accompanied by the full text. Probably ahead in the presentation we can talk about it, or in the end, with a lot of times you raise doubts about it. But also, just to finish this slide, the author must be also able and willing to grant university a non-exclusive right to preserve and give his work into repository. Non-exclusive rights, what that means is that the author maintains the author rights or the copyright of their documents, but they give a non-exclusive right for the university to disseminate, to preserve, and to give access to their work in the conditions that they indicate, being that open access, restricted, or other, okay? So, but they must be able to grant the University of Minho a non-exclusive right. They don't give the copyright, okay? They just only give the right to show the work into the repository. They can use the documents whenever they want in the context they want. So, another question that probably we have a lot of times people asking us is about the working operation. Nowadays, the Minho institutional repository are completely embedded in the organization as part of the library's budget. So We have the library's director that spends about one tenth of their time in the institutional repository just to follow up and the institutional repository activities. We have more or less six librarians working on metadata validation on part-time basis, amounting approximately a full-time person. So regarding the management of the repository, we have a full-time person that's in the case, that's me. That's the only person that's allocated in full-time to the repository. The other ones, and for example, the IT services are provided on a need basis, and according to an annual plan that we established with an internal IT services at the university. So another thing that we have at the repositorium that's common to I would say to every DSpace platform is the deposit workflows profile. So we can have these profiles. We have submitters, revisers, coordinators, and metadata validated. That are the translations that we made. They correspond to step 1, step 2, step 3, and the functions are defined, are implemented in advance. The people associated to each of them receives alerts to each new task, giving you this idea in a visual way. We can have basically this design of internal workflows. So we can have submitters, and at the end, because we configured that in our system, we have always a metadata validation step. So every document before entering, being publicly or being made available at the repositorium, they are checked by a team of people, librarians, that they check the metadata and some procedures just to check if everything is according to our policies, to our procedures. So we can design or define these steps or workflows to manage our different collections at the repositorium. This next slide is just to show that we have, for example, in terms of quality management system, we have designed some procedures, some workflows. I will not be detailing these, but just to give you the idea that's very important, and we try to do that since the beginning, to follow up or to define internal procedures and to follow up guidelines to pursue a quality information system with all of these. For example, in terms of the guidelines, we've been pursuing since the beginning the international standards. And for example, nowadays we are working or we are operating among other guidelines that are not incompatible, but we are following, for example, OpenAIRE guidelines, and we are currently also exposing in the version 4 of the OpenAIRE guidelines, as I will show you. And what we gain with this, we gain quality in terms of our metadata, in terms of what we expose to the world, to the public. So we gain also visibility, because if we talk the same language, if we expose the metadata with good quality and complying with standards, our visibility increases. So we can get also reliable indicators and statistics that we can show to our users, to our public. Also, it's important to strengthen the repository as an information, as an institutional system, and also because it's important to exchange information with other repositories and information systems. So just to give you an idea, we have been besides, we have the public available metadata, and for the systems or for the world, we exposed later in standards that are common and can be retrieved by machines. And if other people want other people to check with this, just to give you this idea. For example, in the context of a project, it's an important project, the OpenAIRE, we can check and validate our own compatibility in terms of metadata and try to give good quality metadata and a good service in this way. Just to illustrate the guidelines compatibility that we have, won't spend too much time on this. But just to give you the idea that it's very important to follow up procedures, guidelines, good quality metadata. Being that said, to be able to interoperate, to be retrieved by other networks. For example, we have in Portugal a national network of repositories, but in the context of the world, like OpenAIRE, Oasis, Recollecta, the use cases are multiple, but if we talk in terms of metadata, in terms of guidelines, we can be interoperable, promote interoperability with other systems or network of repositories. So, resuming evolution, I made a slight detour, resuming the evolution of the repository that we were talking about in the beginning. So when it started, as I said, we started publicly in 20th November 2003. So when we start looking at repository in 2004, and we saw that we are not evolving as we wished. So in the first semester of 2004, we started contacting other units of the university. We made several presentations to departments, schools, and 2 new communities were created. But from the 4 communities that we began with, 2 pilot communities stopped submitting the documents into the repository. So what we did in conclusion, because the number of documents, the number of communities was evolving more slowly than we expected and desired, we saw that the main difficulties about the content self-archiving or archiving were the doubts related with intellectual property, copyrights, because of work procedures, work habits, values, expectations. I think all of this it's very common to all of you, also to the inertia of work, overload of the authors, and also we could say difficulties in technological barriers. So what we did, we started thinking about this and what we could do to surpass this. So first of all, we started to pursuing an advocacy and communication strategy inside and outside in the exterior of the university. We started participating actively in the international community relating with open access, repositories, and the system that we were and are using this space. So also because we saw the system at that time, we saw that the system, the platform, this space, was lacking some functionalities or could be improved. So we started developing add-ons or slices of code that we incorporated into our repository to reward our authors and submitters. For example, one of the most important one was developing an usage statistics add-on that this space didn't add at that time. And very important that we'll be talking more in detail, we decided to implement an open access institution policy for the University of Minho. We started implementing, we started promoting we started an integrated communication strategy to promote the adhesion of new communities, to increase the number of users, to promote self-archiving. also to increase the collection and documents, but also we thought that was very important. We saw that it was very important to promote the creation of institutional repositories at a national level, and with not working alone in this. For example, in Portugal, and start involving the whole university academic community in this, and also to promote the open access movement as a whole. Our communication strategy was very broad. This is just to illustrate. We had presentations. We have done support services like in copyright, other advocacy support documents. We defined target groups. The targets that we defined would be the most important to reach. So we defined all of this into a communication plan that we established. As I said, we started also because, in part because of our pioneer work with the repository, we started participating and being invited to work on projects related to the repositories and open access over the years. This is just to give you, I won't have the time to talk all about this, but there are several important projects that we have been involved with in all these years. But we, in this, just to give you, it's important that we had some intervention areas in terms of infrastructures, information scientific infrastructures, like the ones top left, in terms of training and advocacy, in terms of cooperation and international alignments, and promoting also policies, etc. So, giving a closer look to the open access institutional policy that we've defined at University of Minho. So we defined following the first year of operating our repository, we contacted the rectory of the university, and we presented the repository to the rectoral team, and they saw that the repository was really interesting project, and they decided to work with us by defining or implementing a self-archiving policy. This policy was presented by an internal official document in the end of 2004, and this publication, this self-archiving policy, is what we called a soft mandate. So the policy said that the University of Minho staff must or should archive their publications into the repository and making them available whenever possible. The organization, research centers and departments should adopt self-archiving policies also. And very important also, all the theses and master and doctoral theses approved by the University of Minho, the authors should authorize the deposits of their theses and dissertations into the repositorium. So this policy made some noise out in the world. It was one of the first in the world, one of being adopted. So this policy, it was also had an interesting twist with it that followed the policy. That it was, as I said, it was defined in the end of 2004, but it was official in the beginning of 2005. And it was very interesting because the rectory at that time decided to provide a financial supplement that would be given to the research centers and proportional to the compliance of the policy in self-archiving policy at the repositorium. the incentive was distributed through the research centers and not directly to the researchers, and the amount that was destined to each research center was calculated as a function of, we had a formula in terms of the type of documents being self-archived, if it was journal articles, if it was peer-reviewed or not, if it was a recent publication or not, and also if the research center had some policy defined or implemented or not. In 2006, this was in 2005, it was in 2006, there was also a financial supplement, but it was very inferior. It was very smaller comparing to the first one. And by 2006, and since 2006, this is very important, we have been operating without any financial incentive. So this was a temporary measure. This was a thing that was temporary. So since 2006, we don't have any financial incentive related to the repository. And results were these. So in 2003, we had almost 300 documents. So in 2005, we had an increase, a significant increase in a year, more than 2,000 documents. And we, as you see, this is the graphic that represents the first 2 years of the policy. But what we saw that not having a financial incentive since 2006 and no monitoring authority from 2007 onwards, the results were not the ones that we were expecting. So we saw that the policy was important to evolve. It was a very important step because it started, people start looking at repository. Or there were research authors and researchers that with that policy, it was the click for them to use the repository. And since then we had interesting, but not the results that we had. So as we see with this graphic, since 2006, the number of documents being submitted or deposit was never lower than 1,500 documents per year. But as we saw, the results were not the ones that we were expected. So in 2010, we decided to upgrade or to review the policy because the number of the number and percentage of the research output was decreasing since 2006-07, because the university still saw the open access as a relevant factor in the visibility and strategy of the university, and because we wanted to improve the Minho open access experience and maintaining the university as an open access frontline institution. And what we did, we contacted a new rectoral team in 2010, and we devised a new policy or revised the policy. This revision was very important because what I said, the first policy was what you call the soft mandate, and this policy evolved to a mandatory policy. So this policy in the text, in the beginning of text, it's very clear. It says that all academic staff to mandatory deposit into the repositorium a copy of all peer-reviewed publications dated after January 2011. That was when the policy was implemented. And very important because this policy had a twist also regarding the other one. This policy was linked to the evaluation of researchers in terms of the reports, in terms of the reports and evaluation of researchers and teachers. So another thing that we did with this policy was to start started a roadshow to present this policy. We went to every schools and institutions, faculties of the University of Minho with the rector or a rectoral team member and start showing this policy. And since the beginning of this policy, we started quarterly monitoring the policy compliance. What we did, we devised also a strategy. We started looking for all the indexed publications with affiliation to the University of Minho in some important reference sources like Web of Science and Scopus. And we compared the publications indexed in those sources and the publications being submitted into the repository. So in the end, we did this. We compiled lists and reports, and we send them to the research centers, showing them the number of publications that were submitted and the ones that were missing at the repository. So just to show you all of this, the red line represents the activity prior to this new policy, and the blue line represents the implementation of the new policy. So we had the quarterly monitorings with the first one around in February, and we see the increasing numbers with the implementation of this new policy and reporting this to the academic community. This is the number of publications, the indexed publications, if you want, comparing this. And by the end of the year, we had almost 70% of the indexed publications submitted into the repository. These figures showing the numbers in 2011, okay? In 2012, as we see, the people were starting earlier, complying with this. So by the first monitoring, the compliance levels were higher, but in the end, also a similar number in terms of the compliance of the policy. It's also important to show that the number of publications that were being submitted were not only the publications, the most recent publications, but also people started with this new policy, they started submitting all their publications, the newer and also the older publications that they had. It's important to show this. So some thoughts about the policy. We saw that the policy, this revised policy, had a big impact in the Minho staff. The number of publications, the number of documents, and the number of researchers self-archiving was very more bigger than 2012. The policy had impact not only in publication in 2011, but also in previous years. And also we saw that periodic monitoring has been an important tool to secure the policy. Giving you just a quick footnote about policies, probably you can look at this also just to give you some figures about the policies in the world. There are different kinds of policies. This is some just to illustrate. This is the University of Minho is not the only policy, but what I would like to show you is that based on a study that was made on a context of a project, Pastor 408, it shows this table shows that the most successful institutions with policies were the policies or the institutions that implemented mandatory policies that were linked to the evaluation procedures. So this is just to illustrate this. We can create mandatory policies, but we must find also ways to close the circle by creating a way to check and to make the compliance levels higher than we shouldn't say we have a mandatory policy, but if we don't comply, it's saying the same that we don't have a policy. But just to give you also an idea, you can also follow some of these advocacy resources that were made available during this project, Pastor for Away. You have these links that you can later on follow up. Giving you some indicators about Repository. This is just a graphic to show the growth of documents per year. Nowadays, we are more than 66,000 documents. This is the number of submitters per year. I put this graphic on purpose on this. Probably you can ask me why, okay, so until 2011, you are growing or more or less growing in terms of submitters, self-archiving, why the numbers are decreasing since 2011 onwards. So this is due to another thing that we have an ongoing step or measures that we have been engaging, is that we have been also trying to create or to implement strategies to, for example, to submit documents via other information systems. So we have the blue slice represents the documents that were self-archived into the repository, meaning that someone logged into the repository and follow up by the workflow, the internal workflow submission in the repository interface. The orange slice represents the number of publications that were submitted into the repository via other information systems. So over the years, the number of publications we have been trying to reward or to facilitate the work of our researchers and teachers by giving them ways to submit their publications into the repository. Inputting once, reuse multiple. So they can choose other systems to submit their information, their publications, and in the end, submit their publications into the repository. This is just to give you a visual idea about the integrations or the interoperability that we have at the repository. So we have in the lower right end, we have a thing that we call automated submissions. We have several submissions. What we based on this context is to submit once, reuse multiple. Meaning that what we want is that our researchers, they can choose, for example, they have internal systems, information systems, where they had already to put their publications information or to submit their publications. And what we did was to create ways for them to reuse that information, inserting the full text and using a protocol SWORD export to submit their publications into the repository. Just to give you a visual idea, this is a SWORD integration that we have in a research center. In this important research center, the researchers, the teachers already had to put their publications. So in the end, what they do, or they just need to do, is to click on information to submit, to upload a document and send this information to the repository. Okay, so in terms of documents, what we have right now, this is just also a visual idea. The majority are articles, conference objects, master thesis, doctoral thesis, book parts, books, other. I can detail this if you want. Right now, we have more or less, this is almost 80% of documents in the repository are open access. We have some of them restricted, also some of them embargoed, in embargo conditions. We have also a big important role regarding complying with funder mandates. The information that we provide with our metadata can later on be used by funders in terms of the compliance. This is some figures about that kind of information. And how we do that, I said that I can give you an idea. In the input forms, the authors or the people checking the metadata can, just by using an OpenAIRE API, just by identifying the grant identification elements, number, name, acronym, they can put their information during the submission of their publications. This is the way that they can do it, and they can do it in a normalized way. So this is the number of downloads per year in our repository, just the big figures that we have been giving to in terms of visibility. For example, in the last year, we have in real numbers, we have 2,300,000 downloads, but we recorded more than 10 million downloads, but derived by the cleaning of bots and spiders. We excluded more than 7,800,000 downloads. So the figures that I'm showing you, they are real figures. They result from human intervention. The usage statistics that I won't have the time to show you, we allow us to have access to this kind of information. But this is very important also for the authors, for the institution, that having this visibility impact of the repository in the world. This is the origins of the downloads in 2020, Portugal, Brazil, and other countries, just to give you a visual, also a regional coverage by country. We have accesses, we have what we could say a big footprint. We have visibility worldwide. For example, just a curiosity from Israel, we had some of these figures about accesses to our repository, also to represent in a more focused way. Regarding the scientific output in the repositorium, so I would say that considering the 46 years of existence of the university, this is the figures over the operating years of the repository. We don't have the three more recent ones, but I can give you the idea that nowadays we have more or less about 61% of all indexed publications available at Repositorium. So just to give you also this idea. So just advancing, because we are not having a lot of time. So some ongoing work and final remarks. So what we want to pursue on open access. We want to follow up and to try to reach more of the scientific output of the university, if possible, open access. Right now, we also are pursuing some activities in terms of scientific data, in terms of research data management. I won't be talking about this because I won't have the time, but right now we have a new thing going. That's a new repository specific for research data. You can check it on this URL. Just as a curiosity, the system that we selected is not DSpace. The system that we chose is Dataverse. So you can check it. This is the URL of our data repository. So we are also pursuing and experimenting in this scientific data management area. We are also pursuing and working on more integrations with our institutional repository. And I will show you also a bit of this by showing you some work that we are going in our current research information system and some recent developments that we have done more recently. So what we did in 2017, we started with a new system that we are evolving it to a CRIS system. this system was made to facilitate deposits and manage publications into the institutional repository. We wanted that it would help to comply with the Minho open access policy, and also to work and to work as the definition of repositorium as the authoritative source for evaluation performance of the Minho researchers and teachers. So what we done in this system was to create, for example, a module to manage authorities, being that authors, publishers, or journals and other relevant entities. For example, just to give you a visual idea, in terms of authors' identifications and ambiguation, this is a way that we have in our repository, in a way that we interoperate and how we show information of authors' identification in our repository. In this system, what we've done, it's just to give you an idea of a very brief idea of the architecture. We reach through the public APIs, we gather or we collect the metadata into our database, the publications affiliated to the University of Minho. We put it into a system that's being it interoperates with other internal systems like human resources for the author's identification, and with that tool we can, for example, have an author space where it shows all the publication of a certain author or the authors, and it shows the publications that they have already available on the repository, the ones with the Minho icon, the square with the star, are, for example, documents that are already deposited into the repository, but also collects publications from external sources like Scopus, Web of Science, and put that information here and shows if the publication is already available at the repositorium or not. It also facilitates submissions, also again by using the SWORD ingest protocol. So by answering some quick questions or quick topics, selecting the collection, selecting the type of access, the source, the metadata source that we want to use, uploading the documents, and finalizing by conceding or applying the non-exclusive license. They very quickly they can put publications into the repository. Just another footnote, because I didn't talk about it. I won't have all the time for this, but I know that's for sure that's a real concern, a real problem that we have with our authors. Not only by, I'm talking right now about SWORD ingest publication submissions, but also self-archived submissions. So that's the concern of authors regarding copyright or intellectual property issues. So what we say, or what we should look, is, for example, that we have created internally several guides. We have a dedicated line. We have ways to communicate, to reach our researchers, to inform them, and to create communication lines to always have them informed about this. An important service on this matter is this service Sherpa Romeo, where every author or researcher or public in general can check, for example, the policies of journals and publishers. Of course, they are not everyone in the world, but this is a very important directory where you can check what are the policies of a certain journal or editor concerning the submission into the repository. What we can say about this is that the majority of them allows the authors or the researchers to use or to submit their publications into the repository in some way. The way, what we should say this is that by using the right version of the documents, you can, in the most majority of cases, submit your publications into the repository. For example, in the majority of the cases that we can see is that if the author uses the accepted manuscript, the article that has been peer-reviewed and accepted for publication, that includes author incorporated changes for peer-reviewed, but not fully formatted or copy-edits, they can be shared within your institution any time and can be external. In some cases, externally after some embargo period. The repository, as I said, following the submission, you can define the open access, also restricted access, or other kinds of access to the full text. So, in some case, the metadata is always fully available. There's no problem with metadata, but the full text can be made available in some conditions, as you can see. So, in general, a general recommendation to facilitate self-archiving publications into the repositories, we should say that to observe the following good practices. Permanently keep personal versions of files or accepted publications, what I've said, accepted manuscript, and also to keep a copy of the copyright transfer agreement, CT8, that you have signed with publishers' magazines. If you observe these last recommendations, in the majority of cases, the deposit of publications should be feasible immediately after publications or accepted for publication in the case of articles in open access and in full text. So following these footnotes and looking again at the system that I was showing you, this evolving quiz system, what we have in this system is also a publication match, an automatic match, suggested match, and manual match. Being that said, what we do in this system is that we cross the information of the publications that are available in our repository and in other sources, and we can match these automatically if there is a correspondence, or in some cases we can do it manually. For example, there is some characteristics, for example, in the titles, in the metadata, that don't allow us to do a automatic match, but we can enrich and curate information via this system. We also, with this system, we can check or identify errors, problems with metadata. By crossing all this information, we can see if there are any problem with a broad number of metadata elements or errors, problems that we identified. For example, titles, types, publication dates. If there is the publication is dynamic, for example, the date that we have of a publication can evolve, considering, for example, the publications in press, etc. The PID's information. So this is also a very important tool to curate and to find problems in metadata. Again, to curating information regarding, for example, the type of documents, year, title, author's identification, etc. This tool also allows us to have a better and more accurate way to follow up and to monitor the compliance of the Minho policy. So with a few filters, we can check the number of publications, for example, per year, and considering the indexed publications, we can check the number of publications available at the repository or not available, and also to give this information to the authors, to the researchers. Also, this curated, this quality metadata can be also and is used in the case of Minho in terms of performance evaluation. For example, there is another system that's used, another module of this information system that is used for evaluation, for performance evaluation, and this information, the information available at the repository is later on used by this system, and to be evaluated, the authors must have their publications into the repository. If they don't have, the system won't retrieve any publications for being evaluated. So just some final slides, some learned lessons. We think that in most cases we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can learn with others' experience. We can use others' examples and evolve and to upgrade to do a better roads to construct relevant and important systems. There are no need to reinvent this. What we would say is to have a vision and a strategy, get the support and the commitment of the university or institutional leadership. Ideally, make open access or open science a part of the institution strategy, to get involvement and commitment of researchers and department search centers. For example, reach what we call the champions of the institution, the relevant researchers, relevant teachers. Also to facilitate and reward deposit self-archiving, finding ways to facilitate their work, to make their work more simple. Also to embed, to integrate, interoperate the repository with all other information system, being that institutional, national, global. Also to promote the repository and open access content inside and mostly outside of the institution, and above all, maintain focus on adding value to the institution. Just to close, what we have at the university is that open access is still part of the Minho's strategic plan. Repository will be the only source regarding the publications for the Minho ongoing CRIS system that will manage and to manage and evaluate university activities. We want to still proceed and to work in the field of scientific data and its management, as well as the whole frame of work of open science. Also to continue working in the field of open access publishing. We have a couple of years now, we have established also an academic publishing publisher. And what I had to say to you today, just trying to comply with my timetable, is this. This is the face nowadays of Repositorium. And what we'd say is, I think it's toda. I hope I said it right. Toda.
That is perfectly.
Thank you very much. And I'm now available for any questions that you have. You may reach me right now if you want later on, but I'm now available for you just to have some interaction. I hope I was clear in my exposition. It's a lot of information. I try to put it in a way that you can all get the relevant parts. So
So, Ricardo, thank you so much for such a fascinating presentation. It was perfect. We have so much to learn here. Maybe it's a good time to mention the fact that because we don't have institutional repository in Israel beside one university, so to mention again Zenodo, you mentioned it during your presentation, Zenodo is an alternative.
Yes.
Zenodo, it's
Karit, just a moment. Maybe we will ask Ricardo to stop a screen share. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
As I said, maybe it's probably a good time to mention the fact that we have Zenodo, which is the repository of the European Union, and in the lack of repository or local repository, researchers can upload their research and articles in any publication to there. So this is one thing. We have a couple of questions in the chat, so I will read it to you.
Yes, I didn't saw it. I was focused on the presentation. We have a lot of questions here.
Yes, you want to read it? You want me to read it?
Yes, I can try. If I miss any, just tell me. I will try to. Loba, I'd like to learn about your experience regarding researchers' participation and their goodwill to update their update into the repository. So I think in the Minho case, what we had was a lot, I would say, a lot of resistance in the beginning. I would say, and I think it's shared by in the University of Minho, I think the easy part is the technical part. The difficult part is the human side. It's the most difficult is to convince the users to start using and participating in a new thing. I would say in that time in the repository and using the repository. So over the years, I think that we have been overcoming and gradually involving all the researchers and by showing, for example, the visibility of the repository and giving them ways to comply. And I think that over the years, I would say right now that the repository activity is fully embedded into the academic staff at University of Minho. I
have a question. What were the main objectives
of the repository?
Of researchers when you ask them to deposit their article or any other publication in the repository? What did they say?
What they
the
said,
main objective of resistance.
So the main resistance was, for example, the copyright. Some of them said that it was difficult to submit. But for example, in terms of copyright, what we have been doing is over the years advocating, showing them that is no problem putting their publications into the repository. For example, creating support advocacy materials, creating ways for them to during the workflow to check if their publications can be submitted into the repository. What we have done is, for example, to make create easier ways for them to submit their publications, not only via the internal workflow into the repository interface, but using external systems to retrieve the metadata and just uploading the right version of their document. What we have done in the beginning, as I try to say or to show, was that, for example, this space in the beginning didn't add, for example, any usage statistic module. What we have created, it was ways, a new module, a new add-on to give them information about usage statistics in terms of views, in terms of downloads. And for example, when we started, we had some older professors and academics were very resistant to the usage of the repository. So we try to in a more personal way to reach them, to contact them, and show them why the repository and open access is important, and try to help them on a personal way to submit the publications. And often I found many researchers and professors that later on they started putting some publications, and later on came to me and said, "Oh, I'm very happy with the repository, because I had some old publications that were hidden in my drawer, in my desk, and when I put it into the repository, it seemed they gained a second life, because they gained a new visibility, a new impact." So it's very rewarding to see all of these. And for example, we have a lot of testimonials and people, they came to me and said that because they put their publications into the repository, they later on they were contacted, for example, by companies, by research companies and other academics to talk with them about their research and to reuse the research. So we have a lot of examples about this. So I don't know if I was clear with this. I could continue. I will try to follow some of these questions. If you want, in the end, we can resume again about this. I have another question here by Avital. Does the repository include data files? So probably you started, this question was in the beginning of the presentation. Yes, the repository includes some data files, some, not many. Right now we consider Repository a publication repository. Nowadays we have evolved, we have created a new repository. The new repository, based on our research, we started using the Dataverse. So we created a repository to experiment and to use and to work with data files. That's the thing that we have right now.
I have a question. I have a question
Yes.
regarding this. Does the policy that comply researchers to upload the research into the repository apply also to the data repository?
No, the data repository is very new. It will complete a year this month. Probably will evolve into data files, but what we have is more or less, in terms of data, is that we want the data to be open as possible, as closed as needed. It's more or less as European Commission has put it. So we know that in terms of data, probably it will be more difficult because it's a more sensible area. So in terms of data, we want it as open as possible, as closed as necessary. So we don't have right now a formal policy. Probably it will be, and I know that is being worked with the directory, but right now we don't have an official policy like we have for the publications right now. Okay. So following up some other questions, what about the barrier of language? Were the documents translated into English? So I would say my answer to this is that we didn't have a big barrier in terms of language. Why? Because probably it's a bit strange, but the majority of documents available at Repositorium, they are available in English. The majority of them. The publication, the documents are not translated into English. In some cases, the metadata is available in different language, but in overall, we don't translate documents. What we have is also, for example, because besides English, we have also a big number of documents in Portuguese. And being that said, for example, a big number of countries that reaches into the repository is spoken countries, Portuguese spoken countries. So that's what I could say about this. Okay, it's a comments. What happens, another question here, what happens with dual, triple academic affiliations? I don't know if I really understood, but what we have right now is that any document to be incorporated into the repository, they must present an Minho affiliation. What we have internally is that a researcher, a professor, of course, can have different affiliations, or, for example, can be affiliated to a department and to a research center. Internally, this space or the system that we use for our repository, we can map, we can share. The publication only needs to be submitted once, but they can be replicated into different communities. They can be seen in different communities. So it's a way that we have to surpass this. So another question, is there a trend shift towards publishing? Yes. Yes, I would say that in a national, we are assisting to new trends in terms of open access. We are, for example, in the context of Portugal, we are seeing a lot of journals shifting, for example, to open access modules. A lot of researchers are being funded for example, in Portugal, we have the major Portuguese funder has also implemented an open access policy that mandates all their researchers to submit or to publish in open access their funded publications. Of course, in international wise, we are seeing a lot of information about new trends in open access and shifting modules in open access, Plan S, etc. So this is what we can see right now. Another question: do you see a preference to initiate a gradual process to encourage researchers to participate? To participate namely starting from with incentives and then requirements for evaluation processes. So what I showcase is the Minho experience. So in the beginning, in 2005, directory decided to reward, to give an incentive to the in terms of the participation of usage of Repositorium. So we had some good experience, but I don't think the incentive is feasible in the long term. I would say that the best examples that I know are the repositories that link their activity their content, they are linked to mandates and linked to evaluation processes or procedures. So I would say that probably it would be better to start in a gradual way, to create shock waves in the beginning. So I would say that it could be interesting to reach to pilot communities, to start gradually engaging people with repository and not imposing an information system from the blue. So I would say that it would be better to grow on a more natural basis than imposing a system. But of course, in the end, I think that a repository associated to an evaluation or research evaluation procedure, performance processes are the best way to do that. Daphne, can you tell me a bit about marketing the repository outside the university? So what we have done in terms of marketing, advocacy, or promoting our repositories since the beginning, we defined the targets, the publics that we wanted to reach. Of course, internally we thought that would be very important, but we thought that it would be fundamental to reach the public the publics outside the university. So what we began was to, in the national level, we started doing talks, we started presenting our own case into other universities. And when it started in 2003 in Portugal, the Repositorium was the only repository. So a couple of years later on, the Portuguese universities started seeing the impact and the visibility of Repositorium, and besides we go to them, they started coming to us and to see and to learn with us, with our example, and to implement their own repositories into their institutions. So also based on our own experience, the national Portuguese funder reached University of Minho, and we started a national-wide project that's called RECAP. And this project, right now it has many facets, but one of them, it was to create a national aggregator. So in this project, we create a national aggregator called RECAP. And also within that project, we also created several repositories that were created from scratch and then given to the institutions to be administrated by them. So also in the international panorama, we started also to go to the international conference, presenting repository, also to learn with others' experience. So that's more or less what I could say about this. So I have another question here about with Luba, I think. Are you going to continue to keep two separate platforms for ER and CRIS? So I would say that they are separate, but they are complementary, okay? So what we have right now is the institutional repository for publications, for gathering, for aggregating publications, to giving visibility to the publications. Right now, we are constructing a CRIS system, is an in-house CRIS system that is not a commercial solution. What we are doing is to create different modules that will be complementary. So we have the institutional repository that will provide information in terms of publications, in terms of that kind of information to the system. That will be a broader one, but they are, I would say, complementary and not two different ones. They will work for the same purpose with different ways. Okay. So I don't know if I missed any other question. I was trying to follow up in the chat, but
okay.
if you want to pose.
Yeah, Ricardo, I have one more question. You mentioned your self-archived policy.
Yes.
Is this policy available publicly? Because I think it's a very important document.
Yes, I can put it just the only thing is that is only in Portuguese, but if you want, I can try to translate this to English.
Maybe
but if you want,
because it's very important, and I think it could be a good example for many of our institutions. So thank you, and thank you for your fascinating lecture. It was really very interesting and also very informative, and lots of things for us to think about. And you make a long way, because we are still in the beginning of our adventure in institutional repository world.
Yes, toda. I think that's relating to the policy. We have also some documents that I can later on share with you that show the implementation of the policy also in English more in detail. I will give you that information later on. I don't have it right now. But regarding also of course, I know that that's a lot of information in a short period of time. I tried to put it. I had a lot more of information I could show you, but I tried to put it in a manner that you could follow up. But you have my contact if you need any more information in detail, or if you need, just contact me or just reach me. But I don't know if Cynthia, if you will follow up with other information following this. But for example, in terms of repositories right now, if you want, you can use Zenodo, for example. It's a good and established repository platform to experiment and to use in your own institutions. You don't need to create a repository from scratch, but you can start doing that. Of course, if you want to pursue a more permanent or established, a more solid repository, you have different examples. We are not the only one. You have the open source platforms available for that. It's I think I said it earlier. I think the technical part is the easy one. The difficult part is the human part. The human part, not the people working in the repository. I know probably a lot of you are fully motivated and eager to pursue this, but I know for sure, and we have, as you said, we have a long way, I would say a long way in the repositories in open access. I know for sure that in the way you will find some stones you have to break. But I think it's also rewarding to see if you do the right path, to see people progressively seeing the value that the repository gives to the repository, and not only in terms of the visibility impact, but also in terms of the the life of peoples, to see, as we all are living in a upside down world right now, for example, seeing the information in terms of scientific information being used by the public in general, by researchers, to progress in terms of our own lives. I think it's very rewarding. I didn't show this in my presentation. I could give you a lot of testimonials of people that find information in the repository and use them in their lives, in their research, in everything. So I think, for me, I think you should follow this path. You will find it very interesting and rewarding for your own institution. So thank you, Toda.
Looking almost 18 years back, who was the initiator of IR creation? Was it a library or university management or any other part of university?
So the initiator it was the Minho libraries. The director that started the repository, Eloy Rodrigues. It's the person still in the place right now. He was in 2002. He started as director in 2002 in the libraries. So I didn't enter it in too much details, but in 2002 we were looking, for example, in a way to manage doctoral and master thesis in digital ways. So we started looking in platforms to manage this. This was, I would say, the first motivator. But then in 2002, we have epic coincidences or confluences that made this possible, or to start working on this very early. So in 2002, we went to an international conference about OEH PMH. That's the basis of the protocol of interoperability of repositories, open access, and the movement was again starting by that time. We saw the Budapest Initiative and other policies or declarations or movements about open access were starting at that time. So also in terms of internally, in terms of the university, we had some projects going, and we went into a projects funded by those initiatives, and we put the idea of the repository in one of that initiatives. So we started I didn't say it, but it was the first project starting from that funding. We started with, for example, it's just a curiosity. Our repository in the beginning, it was just a personal computer, a very simple personal computer. In the first 3 years, we were operating in a personal computer, very simple. It was, and we in 2005 were still working on a personal computer, and it was managing very well the volume until then. So later on, we started evolving into an infrastructure more mature, a data center, etc. But it was steps very simple. But the way that we started, it was in a simple manner. We started then with all of this that kind of we had, as I said, some epic coincidences, but also the vision of our director, Eloy Rodrigues, that saw at that time the potential and open access. Is right now, I don't know if you probably know, is the president or director of the COAR, Confederation of Open Access Repositories. You can
that is going to be our next speaker, our next presentation.
Yes, very good for you. It's very good also to have him on this. He will give you also a more clear vision And I don't know if he's talking about repository, but he will give you a very clear and very interesting vision about not only open access, open science, and all of this is very well known on this. So it's very good for you. Very nice.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ricardo.
I don't know if anyone, if you have, for me, you have the opportunity. For you, probably the hour is later. In Portugal is less 2 hours than you. You are almost, but feel free.
We are 1:45, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask one last question?
Yes, for me, Rolly.
Hi. Thank you very much. This was even more enlightening than our initial discussions. Could you give an estimate as to not precise percentages, but distributions of how much of the information on the repository is you would call it fully edited publications that have passed their embargo time, and how much is personal repository in the sense of preprints and so on?
So I can try to share if you want, just in a quick way. I don't know if, so let me just, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
So, so I can give you, for example, in terms of access, you can see on this way the number of publications that we have, the kinds of access that we have in our repository, okay? So you can browse and see this. If you want document types, you can check it also here, okay? You can see the different types of publications that we have right now. I'm showing this very quickly. For example, I try to give you, this is, I didn't intend this, but just to give you an idea of our statistics module. For example, we can, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we are.
This is the module that we created for our repository. For example, you can see these are the number of downloads. Just let me put it in English. Okay, so this is in real time. As I said, this is the figure of last year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the downloads by country.
Mm.
You can have these, for example, we can have these rankings by author, by item, by publications, by EP. We can have this kind of information in terms of communities and collections, whatever you need. For example, I don't know what, for example, we were talking.
Access type.
Yes, just let me put it this. Some queries are done in real time, processes in real time. For example, we are talking about the language. About 65% of our content is available in English. Okay, only 42% are in Portuguese. So giving you the
access
type, so you can check it. The system is processing. Okay, this is the figures right now. These embargoed periods are managed automatically when the period of time ends. The system automatically puts this into open access. Okay, it's managed automatically. I don't know if you want. We have a lot of information. I wasn't planning to do this.
No, this is really nice. Thank you.
For example, just to give you an idea in a more technical, probably is not the focus of all of you, but some people question me about the, in terms of the volume of documents. This is taking some time. Okay, but okay, this is the size of what's data that we have, the formats. If we talk about in terms of preservation, we can go in that way. So we have a lot of also informations in author, top 10. We have a lot of queries that we are, for example, this is the authors with most publications. We can check, for example, I said it's to check, for example, the number of publications submitted by SWORD done via external systems. Okay, so if I want to check the information, the numbers, this is the systems that are putting publications into our system. Almost 330 publications this year were submitted via SWORD externally. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Ricardo, is this analytic tool the part of this space?
No, this is an add-on that we have created. We have devised this. I have, if you want, available for the current version of this space, but this is not included in the current this space version. But it's a code that you can, with some technical level of expertise, to install into your system.
Okay.
Okay, but this is the, you have a lot of information with this.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you very much.
This is the number of publications. As you saw probably in a graphic, this is the year of the first version of the policy. Okay, so in the end of the year, we had 2,400 publications. This is when we started with the mandatory policy, okay? So if you see over the years, okay, this is the evolution. I'm not seeing the full screen, okay, sorry. And probably you can ask me why this, for example,
2018.
Why 2018 is a bigger bar. So that's interesting because our evaluation system or the performance researchers evaluation is done in three years period, okay? So this 2018 relates probably to 2016, 17, 18. In 2018, a lot of researchers submitted their publications because on that year, we had an evaluation procedure. So a lot of them submitted their publications related to these years. If you see this again, 2015 relates to the previous years. Right now, we have also, we have ongoing work, a lot of publications, and we are seeing right now the effects because this year we will have another evaluation related to these years, 2018, 19, and 20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
Thank you so much, Ricardo.
Could you please stop the share? Okay, maybe.
Yes. So let's just let me. Stop sharing. Sorry.
Maybe it's a good time to say to all participants that we will send them the recording of, we will upload it to our YouTube channel, and then we will send them the recording. And if possible, also the presentation.
Yes, I will send you the presentation from my side and everything you need. You have also my contact there. Feel free to contact me.
Okay, thank you so much. Really.
Thank you very much.
So
And
Thank
thanks
you
for all the participants also.
Yes, for joining. And our next event will be on March the 2nd. So it's a good time to say it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So
Bye.
bye. Keep
Thank
safe.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you.